Microsoft actually, if you go on their website right now to the Windows 365 page, will bring you these three like curated, best in class. You're going to have your basic, your standard, and your premium user workload sizes. What's interesting too is if you go to the Azure pricing calculator and you try to price out Azure Virtual Desktop, this language roughly correlates to the sizes of the users that you will be supporting in AVD. So while you can choose the 571, if you go to the Azure pricing calculator, you're going to get light, medium, and heavy users. Okay, so let's correlate those ideas from light, heavy, and medium to basic, standard, and premium. And what we come up with is a really interesting scenario. So I took the three sizes of Windows 365 that have been surfaced and their monthly cost. I then went to the list of most commonly deployed Azure virtual machines and put them into the Azure pricing calculator, and I ran several different scenarios. The cost per month, which is the raw cost based on an expectation of running these 730 hours. Then I did the reserved instance at 1 year cost. I did what would it cost to run them only 40 hours for a month? Let's say like it's just an admin console that users get in, they work with for a day of the week. It's a development station they work with for a month or for a week of the month, right? Whatever, however it is you devise it. And then I did cost per month at 220 hours, which reflects a little bit more than 40-hour work weeks across, what your users would typically see. Now, the reason why I chose these run times and run rates, if you do a full month, you're not optimized in Azure Virtual Desktop, right? You're paying the raw consumption of that machine just being on all the time. That's going to be important in a minute. If you're doing it at reserved instances, yes, you're going to save money. I did not calculate the 3-year reserved instance, largely because a lot of business strategies don't really survive the 3 years, right? So we get into 24 months and we realize that we're locked in, we got another year. No, what we see is the cost savings at the 1 year are sufficient that they give us the flexibility to continue to adapt our business models as we need approaching the 3 years. So I didn't run that number, but then we need to layer in storage. Are we doing standard SSD or are we doing premium SSD? And this comes down to a user experience perspective, right? So if we take these numbers and we run them out, what we get is we can vastly undercut the cost of Windows 365 in Azure Virtual Desktop with a gigantic pile of asterisks, okay? And that asterisk pile, in this 1126, this machine is severely under-provisioned. Okay, this is a B-class machine. It is designed for general purpose that does not have a high compute strain. This machine is also only running for 40 hours a month, which means that I have to do some interesting optimizations, and we'll cover how to do those optimizations later. But those optimizations reduce the user experience to the absolute minimum supported set of experiences that we would ever tolerate, right? It's going to have slow disk. It's not going to have enough memory processor to do the work that we want this user to do. The user is going to have to come in and start this machine to do their work, which is going to add time to the amount to the process of them getting in to start their work. Now, if we take some of those optimizations out, if we let the machines just run, if we move into this minimum UX, minimum user experience of enabling Start on Connect, you can see we can still undercut the cost of Windows 365, but this is just compute and disk. It's nothing else. It's none of the other required services to support the network, to support security. It's nothing else. It's just compute and disk. Okay, so if we move into this reserved instances and we're still delivering on subpar, or sorry, not subpar, standard SSD, right? It's a decent disk. It's not going to be designed for high workloads. If we go reserved instances with the cheaper disk options, we start to run out of optimizing our cost, kind of even if we've got it as optimized as we can, right? At $41 a month for a machine that's on all the time, for a machine that is never rebooting, it's never losing the user's session, it's never asking them to get out and get back in. It's just there, it lives, it's persistent. For $41 a month, I would have to do that at $100 to get the same machine size at the same compute rate in Azure Virtual Desktop. I can optimize it with that reserved instance down to $51, but I still can't get to 41, and I still have to protect it. When we start getting into the bigger machines, the costs become astronomical in very much a direction that is not favoring Azure Virtual Desktop. Now, again, I'm not trying to say that Azure Virtual Desktop doesn't have its place. It absolutely does. You cannot do a GPU in Windows 365. It doesn't exist, right? We can't support external users. There are a lot of scenarios that are optimized for Windows 3 or that are optimized for Azure Virtual Desktop. And these are single session compute environments. And before anybody drags me over the coals on that, what I will call out is that these are also single session, right? So the second you go multi-session and you have a user logs off, that environment is no longer persistent. You do not have a one-to-one experience, okay? So yes, we can drive our cost optimizations in Azure Virtual Desktop down very low. Yes, we can babysit, we can tweak the dials and the nubbins and buttons all we want to deliver exactly the experience that we want, but it may not actually be the experience the users expect. So